Every major religion promises something eternal: salvation, peace, enlightenment, a path to truth, a way out of suffering, a higher purpose. For thousands of years, this promise has shaped our laws, our ethics, even our education systems. Priests, imams, rabbis, and gurus have stood in pulpits across the world, repeating the same assurance: follow the path and receive the reward. It's the ultimate spiritual contract. Give your obedience, live by the rules, donate your time, your money, your life, and in return, something priceless. But what if this entire exchange is a lie? What if the reward was never real? What if this truth was just a product? A product you were sold over and over again? In this video, we'll expose how religion continues to sell the same scam, not centuries ago, but right now. We'll follow the money, dissect the dogma, and reveal the ancient marketing tricks still fooling billions today. If you've ever questioned what you were taught, hit like and drop your thoughts below. This rabbit hole goes deep. To understand the scam we see today, we have to look at its original model, the earliest versions of spiritual salesmanship. Long before megachurches, before televangelists, before online donation buttons and tax-exempt billions, there were temples, there were priests, and there were promises. Let's go back to ancient Mesopotamia, the birthplace of organized religion. Here, priests claimed access to the gods, not metaphorically, literally. They were the gatekeepers, the middlemen between heaven and earth. And like any good middleman, they charged a fee: wheat, livestock, labor, whatever you had, it could be traded for divine favor. You weren't just giving charity. You were buying protection from plagues, from drought, from the wrath of the gods. This wasn't about belief. It was business. Move forward a few centuries. Ancient Egypt. The pharaohs didn't just build pyramids for glory. They were spiritual insurance policies, packed with gold, scrolls, servants, spells, not for the living, but for the afterlife. Entire economies built around death prep. Why? Because religion had sold a promise. What you do and give now determines what you get after you die. Now skip ahead to medieval Europe. The Catholic Church introduces something called indulgences. You sin? No problem. Pay the church, and we'll shave off your time in purgatory. Steal, lie, murder. There's a price list for that. Literally. You could buy forgiveness. You could even buy salvation for your dead relatives. Imagine that. Your grandmother dies, and someone says, for a small fee, we'll get her out of purgatory. And people paid in droves because the fear was real and the reward was eternal. This is the blueprint. Create the fear, offer the cure, set the price. And just like that, the scam becomes sacred. The formula worked, so it spread across empires, across continents, across centuries, and it never really changed. It just adapted, modernized, polished itself with holy language and emotional appeals. But underneath, the model stayed the same. Give now, receive later. No receipts, no guarantees, just faith and a lot of money. But that was just the beginning. Today, it's evolved into something even slicker, even more profitable, and even harder to see. If you thought this was just about money, think again. What they're selling isn't gold, or heaven, or peace. It's something far more dangerous. Let's fast forward to today. The temples are bigger, the robes are cleaner, the messages are slicker, and the scam, it's never been more profitable. Enter the modern church industrial complex. Mega churches with jumbotrons, televangelists with private jets, preachers with Rolexes, book deals, and million-dollar mansions. And what are they selling? The same deal as always. Give now, receive later, only now. It's wrapped in lights, camera, and production value. This is the prosperity gospel. Plant the seed, they say, give to God, and He'll give it back, tenfold. But God isn't collecting the money, they are. Let's look at the numbers. Joel Osteen, net worth, over $100 million. Kenneth Copeland, estimated at $760 million. Benny Hinn, Creflo Dollar, Paula White. The list goes on, and their message is eerily similar. Struggling financially? It's because you're not giving enough, want a breakthrough, sow a bigger seed. It's not religion. It's a transactional hustle, masquerading as faith. And it works, because they're not just selling hope, they're selling urgency. Flashy donation meters, countdown clocks. God told me someone watching right now needs to give $1,000. They weaponize emotion, guilt, fear, shame, blessing, and when you're desperate, when you're sick, when your kid is dying, you'll give anything, just in case the miracle might be real. But here's the twist. Unlike ancient priests, who at least pretended to represent the gods, today's religious entrepreneurs know exactly what they're doing. They market salvation, like a product, like a subscription, like spiritual insurance. And you're the customer, the donor, the lead in their CRM. And don't forget the loopholes. In the United States alone, religious organizations receive an estimated $82 billion in tax exemptions every single year. No transparency, no oversight, no audit trails. These institutions operate like corporations, but are taxed like charities. And the best part? They don't even have to prove the product works. They just have to sell the dream. And here's where it gets darker. When the product they're selling doesn't even exist. So why don't people walk away? Why do they keep buying into a system with no receipts? Because what's being sold doesn't actually exist. Not in this world. Not in any verifiable form. Not in a way you can test, measure, or confirm. Think about it. The product of religion is something you only receive after you die. Heaven, nirvana, enlightenment, reincarnation, karmic justice. It's always just out of reach. You pay now, obey now, sacrifice now, and the reward comes later. Maybe, possibly, hopefully. It's the ultimate deferred delivery scam. The eternal version of, your package is on the way. But here's the kicker. There's no tracking number, no proof of shipment, no refunds. You just believe. Can you imagine any other system where that would be acceptable? If a company said, give us your money now, and someday, when you're dead, you'll get something wonderful. You'd laugh in their face. You'd call it fraud. But when a religion says it, we call it sacred. This is what makes the scam bulletproof, because it sells something you can't return, based on a claim you can't verify, delivered at a time you won't be alive to complain about. And they've thought of everything. Doubt the product? That's your lack of faith. Didn't get the miracle you were promised? You didn't pray hard enough, or give enough, or believe deeply enough. In this system, the customer is always wrong. And yet the business keeps booming, because when people are desperate, they'll take any hope they can get, especially if it comes wrapped in ritual, with music, incense, stained glass, and the comforting voice of someone saying, "Trust me, it's real." But here's the question. If this product doesn't exist, how do they keep people buying? That's where the genius manipulation begins. This isn't just an accidental pattern. Some of the biggest sellers know exactly what they're doing, because once the product is in place, the real work begins, keeping people trapped, not with chains, but with something far more powerful: psychology. Let's start with the basics: fear, hell, damnation, eternal separation from God. From the moment you're introduced to religion, you're taught that questioning it could cost you your soul. That's not spiritual teaching. That's emotional blackmail. Then comes the guilt. You sinned. You strayed. You doubted. And now, you owe something. Repentance. Obedience. Tithes. They tell you, you broke it. But lucky for you, we can fix it. Religion creates the wound, and then sells you the cure. Shame plays its part too. Shame for who you love, for how you think, for even asking questions. Every emotion that makes you doubt yourself is weaponized to deepen your dependence. And it works, because the brain is wired to seek reward. Neurologists have shown that religious rituals can trigger the same dopamine pathways as drugs, as sex, as gambling. Pray, tithe, sing, believe, and you feel better, temporarily, which creates a reinforcement loop. The more you give in, the more you're rewarded emotionally, and the harder it becomes to pull away. Then there's the sunk cost fallacy. The idea that once you've invested so much, your time, your money, your life, it's too painful to admit it was a mistake. So you keep going. Deeper, harder, longer. Not because you're sure it's true, but because the alternative, that it might not be, is unbearable. Some psychologists even compare this to Stockholm Syndrome, where victims begin to sympathize with their captors, defending the very system that keeps them trapped. And that's not just theory. Religious trauma therapists see it every day. People leaving belief systems only to suffer panic attacks, identity loss, night terrors, and even suicidal ideation, because their entire sense of self was built around something they were never allowed to question. And who benefits from this setup? Not the believer, not the seeker, but the seller, the one who profits from your guilt, from your fear, from your silence. But here's the real kicker. Even when the leaders know it's a scam, they keep selling it anyway. Because when someone dares to expose the scam, they're not just ignored, they're punished. But before we get there, let's pull back the curtain. Because while many believers are sincere, not all the sellers are. Some of them know exactly what they're doing, and they do it anyway. Take Jim Bakker, television preacher, multimillionaire, builder of a Christian theme park. He told millions that God would bless them if they gave. He sold lifetime partnerships, a heavenly timeshare, if you will, in exchange for millions of dollars. And then he was exposed. Fraud, bribery, sex scandals, sentenced to 45 years in prison. And yet, he's back on TV today, selling end-time survival buckets, literally buckets of food for the coming apocalypse. And people are still buying. Then there's Benny Hinn, a preacher known for dramatic healing shows, sick people lined up, wheelchairs, oxygen tanks, terminal diagnoses, and he'd wave his coat, yell "Holy Spirit," and they'd fall over healed. Only they weren't. Multiple investigations found no evidence of actual healing. But you know what there was? Private jets, luxury homes, and an estimated net worth of $60 million. Years later, Benny Hinn himself confessed. His teachings on prosperity were manipulative and excessive. And still, he preaches. The show goes on. It doesn't stop there. Scientology. a religion founded by a science fiction writer, L. Ron Hubbard. He once said, "If you want to get rich, start a religion." And then he did. Ex-members have revealed how Scientology tracks, pressures, intimidates, and isolates those who try to leave. From Tom Cruise's inner circle to everyday families torn apart, the system thrives not on truth, but on control. And here's the worst part. These stories, they're not rare. Across denominations, countries, and doctrines, whistleblowers keep coming forward. Former pastors, ex-imams, disillusioned missionaries, all saying the same thing. They were trained to manipulate, to keep people afraid, to keep them loyal, to keep them paying. They were told what to say, how to cry on cue, how to sell God like a product. And if they questioned it, if they challenged the system, they were silenced. Because this isn't just a religion anymore. It's a business model. And the product isn't grace. It's obedience. But what happens when people wake up? That's when things get dangerous. So, if the scam is so widespread, what can we do about it? Well, before we answer that, you need to know the cost of even asking that question out loud. Because when someone walks away from religion, especially when they speak out, they don't just lose their faith. They lose everything: their family, their community, their safety, sometimes even their life. Let's start with the personal cost. Countless ex-Christians have spoken of being disowned, cut off, called demon-possessed, accused of being under Satan's influence. Former nuns and priests who exposed abuse within the church were smeared, isolated, even excommunicated. And then there are the ex-Muslims, many forced to hide their identities just to stay alive. In some countries, leaving Islam is a death sentence, literally, by law. In others, it's mob violence, honor killings, online death threats. People have had to flee their homes, change their names, go into hiding, just for saying, "I don't believe anymore." Why? Because these institutions protect themselves like any other power structure, like governments, like corporations, like cartels. When someone threatens the flow of power, money, or control, they become a liability, and that liability must be silenced. Just like whistleblowers in big pharma, just like defectors from political regimes, ex-believers are often treated as traitors. The system gaslights them, labels them bitter, lost, angry, backslidden. And sometimes that works. People stay quiet, ashamed, afraid. They suffer in silence because they don't want to lose everything they've ever known. But others? They speak anyway. They tell the truth, not because it's easy, but because it matters. And that brings us back to the question: if this really is a global billion-dollar scam that punishes dissent and feeds on fear, what can we do about it? So what can we do? If the system is this powerful, this persuasive, this protected, what's the way out? First, let's be clear. This isn't about attacking belief. It's not about mocking faith or ridiculing those who seek meaning. It's about questioning the transaction. Because belief, real belief, doesn't need to be bought, sold, marketed, or monetized. It doesn't come with a price tag, a donation form, or a threat of eternal punishment. The truth, whatever it is, shouldn't require emotional blackmail to survive. You don't need to give your money to secure your worth. You don't need to silence your doubt to be accepted. You don't need to follow out of fear. Spirituality, if it's real, should be a journey, not a contract, a process of discovery, not a lifetime subscription. And maybe just maybe, the most dangerous thing about this scam is that it taught billions to outsource their conscience, their curiosity, their questions to someone else. So here's the challenge. What if truth doesn't need to be sold? What if it's not hiding behind a paywall, a pulpit, or a priest, but waiting quietly in the one place religion told you never to trust: yourself? If this gave you something to think about, share it. Someone else might still be stuck in the scam.